Hi, I'm Steph Lowe, and welcome to Health, Happiness and Humankind. Each week, I speak with experts from all over the world in the areas of nutrition, microbiome health, environmental sustainability, psychology, meditation, and more. Together, we'll teach you the answers to becoming healthy, happy, and a more conscious human, and why your contribution to the planet truly matters. If you love the show, please rate and review us on iTunes and hit share to send today's episode to a friend or two. And now, without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. In today's episode, we are joined by Samantha Calgreen, health and mindset coach from Simply Well Coaching. Samantha shares her personal story with marathon running, disordered eating, infertility, and IVF, and how she is now transforming the journey for many other women with a similar past. We discuss the running culture, the transition from marathons to motherhood, and how to examine periods of your life as seasons rather than as permanent changes. With respect to IVF, you will learn the pitfalls of becoming too fixated on the outcome, how you can push yourself towards a goal while remaining kind to yourself, how to keep perspective, and so much more. Hi, Samantha, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad we could connect.
Yes, always lovely to connect virtually. And as a way of getting started for today's episode, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and your journey. So take us through your story so far.
Yeah, God. So, I say on paper, I'm a health and mindset coach, and the mindset part came in there through my journey, which has a couple different parts. When I first moved to Chicago, I got really into running. I fell in love with the sport there. It is pancake flat, so easy, easy to do, much easier than we are in North Carolina now. It's a lot more difficult with hills. But I got into coaching. I loved the community. I loved leading pace groups and talking to runners and supporting them. I was very passionate about that. So I got into personal training and, some health coaching, mainly personal training. However, I noticed that while I loved running and I loved a tough workout, there was that underbelly of diet culture in there, which was, I'm going to feel guilty if I don't do this. There's days that I love pushing myself and love the run, but there's also days when I'm doing it because it's on my schedule and that is the only reason, but I'm not big enough to stop that. I'm going to have guilt around that if I stop. I was definitely not eating enough to support endurance running, to support marathon training. Unless you are really heavily into the research of it and know nutrition very well, it is very easy to fall victim to not fueling yourself properly based on, my God, Shape magazine is where I started with that, and I really don't know what would have made me address that. It was I was talking to a friend the other day about this. There's this great area between getting a little too into health and fitness, right? You're doing it to be healthy, but you kind of cross that line, but you're not yet to an eating disorder. I did not have an eating disorder, but I had disordered thoughts around it. And there's this wide area there where you don't really know. I don't really feel like I need help with this, but at the same time, I don't know how to get out of it. For me, that came in 2016. I went off the pill. My husband and I were ready to start our family, and I didn't have a period. I had been on the pill this whole time since before I was running and through my 7 marathons. I have no idea when I lost it. Yet after 3 months, it didn't return. I was like, okay, I think this is more than just, my body's reacclimating from being on the pill so long. I ended up, after going to my OB, sent me to a fertility specialist, and I had no uterine lining. My body fat was just way too low to make a healthy baby, to even have a period. So I had to confront a lot of things then. I really had to change my mindset around, okay, how do I view my body? Why am I so afraid of gaining weight when I'm underweight? And then there was dealing with, as I dealt with those changes and cutting back on running and eating more, not being afraid of fat, not being afraid of carbs, we entered into IVF. And then there's the mindset around not getting sucked into this hole of, will I be pregnant this cycle? Am I pregnant yet? And making that my life. And so then it was this whole other side of, how can I try to enjoy some of this on the way to having our baby, which is now he's going to be 3 next week. So I really found I wanted to help women with not just the quote unquote health. I almost don't like the word healthy anymore. It's different on everyone. I wanted to help them with their mindset around what healthy is for them.
Yeah, fascinating. I'm sure there's so many people tuning in that can relate to lots of different parts of your story. I remember seeing a little tweet from you, and it said, your fertile body is not your fittest body. And I think that can be perhaps a really powerful epiphany to discuss further, because as you said in your story, you had essentially a body fat that was too low to support your fertility journey. And of course, with a non-existent uterine lining, well, then, of course, it's going to be a much more challenging situation for you from a fertility standpoint. And then, of course, there's some expectation around what our body fat might need to be for a healthy menstrual cycle and to be able to conceive. So if you will, I'd love you to share a little bit more about the specifics and what you went through there.
Yeah. So, and I don't know exactly what my body fat was. Clearly it was too low and my weight was too low. My BMI, I think, was probably under 17 at that point. And now looking into this more and really researching into it and reading so much about this, it's called hypothalamic amenorrhea. So HA for short. When you're missing your cycle, or you even have there's variations of it where maybe you're just ovulating late, but you have a really long cycle because of this energy deficit, because you are working out too intensely and just not fueling properly. You don't have enough energy for that. And you need to be more obviously it's different for everyone, but a healthy BMI, which we can't sink everything into, is at least 18.5. You need at least, 20% body fat. And every workout you see, every boot camp, what is it? It's, lose fat, torch fat, burn fat, fat free, all of these things. So, you're absorbing that for years and thinking, I don't want fat on my body. Fat is not good on my body. We have to have fat on our bodies to have normal hormone function. And so many of us are on the pill or some type of birth control, hormonal birth control, where it masks it. Like I said, I have no idea when I lost my period. It could have been that first marathon. Maybe I found out that, hey, running this distance, while it agrees for some women, we all see, marathoners that have children. It could agree for someone else, but it's not for my body. And I didn't know that until it was like, oh my God, I'm deep in it now. I have no idea how long this has been kind of going on. I didn't have that immediate red flag. Something is affecting this.
Yeah, I think that's also a really common story because, like you said, essentially the pill is very common in our generation. It's often prescribed early on to either, control a symptom or act as birth control. And yeah, we've spoken about HA on the show before, and certainly in the clinic when I'm working with my clients and in particular athletes, it's something that we see in varying degrees. So I do think it's quite common, although perhaps not discussed enough because periods are still a bit taboo, although we are slowly breaking that down with our generation. So that's going to be interesting to see where that goes. But the other thing about the running culture is, we've obviously been taught to link body fat with speed or with performance, right? So when you've been in this world of, 7 marathons and many years of training, potentially the focus could be, I just want to be lean to be fast, which is not necessarily unhealthy to a degree. It's just when your goals change for you personally and many others that perhaps your less interested in marathons and more interested in having a baby, that you then realize you've got quite a lot of work to do. It's not always just a straight transfer from marathon to motherhood.
Oh, exactly. I'm so glad you said that, because it's true. It's not like you can't have this either physique goal or running goal, whatever your physical goal is, but understanding that it's very likely they can't happen at the same time, right? That these are two very different goals. Fertility, think about what fertility yoga is. It is very gentle. It is very kind. It's movement. Exercise is great, but it's not intense, high impact exercise that you want. And we're not, like you said, we're just now talking about periods, right? We're not taught that. What we're taught is exercise is good. We fall into this trap of, I have to be pushing myself. And then we get to the point of, oh, wait, this isn't great for my body. Well, now I'm kind of feeling like guilty if I don't, because that's what I'm told I should do. And that's what I'm congratulated on, right? Oh my God, you get up at 6 a.m. and run, you do marathon, you do CrossFit, all this stuff we're getting accolades for. That's amazing. I wish I had that willpower. And then you're supposed to just stop. And that was very difficult. And really getting my mind around, it's okay to do less. And then I see it transfer to other areas of, career, then you're in motherhood. It's okay to, not have homemade everything. It's okay to quote unquote only work 7 hours a day. It's okay to take weekends off. When we're congratulated and we see other people bragging and posting about all these accomplishments they're making, we feel guilty, right? I talk with women every day who feel guilty for taking a break, for taking time to themselves and not being quote unquote productive. And it's very hard for them to allow that rest without that guilt.
Yeah, I think that must be a cultural thing because, I have nearly a 2-year-old, pardon me, and I certainly have a history of basically only working. When I was back in the day before I met Ian and I was single and I was growing my business, I had all the time in the world, right? And whether that was healthy or not, I was really able just to completely focus on my business. And now things look so different. I can't work 7 hours a day most days of the week. I'm lucky if I get 2 days a week where I can do that. But I guess it is a gradual process, right? And we can go through some basic strategies as to how we can adjust. But it is important to remember that it's a phase of your life. Like I often remind myself what it might be like when Grace and my children are at school and how my work and my training and my time will look really different then. So I think it is really important to acknowledge that it's a season. Like it might be, previously for you, it was the running season, it was a marathon season. We can switch gears and have a different focus, but it's not forever.
Right. Oh my God. Perspective is key because when we're in it, right? When you're in it, you see that this is my life. This is how it is. But we don't think, yeah, I can't do that. I can't do this forever. And the same thing with me. I don't want to I like running still. I don't want to spend my time marathon running right now. And there's other moms that might want to. There's probably someone out there with a 3-year-old and they're training for a marathon and it suits them and they love it. That's not what I want to do right now. And maybe that'll change. But that was a season, like you said. This is a different season. And when he is in school full time and not so dependent on me for everything, maybe I'll pick it up again. But that's not how I want to spend those precious hours that I have to myself right now. That feels like it would be a stress to get that in and being able to recognize that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But I think it's important to acknowledge that everyone's life is really different, and that's what it's about. I think it's about acknowledging what you really want to be doing with your time and how you want to be allocating your time. But at the same time, this is a conversation that we've had a lot when it comes to intensity. Whether it's someone that's had overtraining or whether it's this conversation when we're looking at getting our period back and rebalancing our hormones, it's just still too common to be training too hard and for our health to suffer as a result, which is such a tragic irony. We take up these sports to feel good and to maybe socialize and to achieve some goals and, all these wonderful reasons. Yet if we push it too far, unfortunately, we can pay the price.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And emotionally, right? I mean, I feel like it's not so much what you're doing or the time you're spending, or even sometimes the intensity you're at, as long as it's okay for your, physically for your body. It's, do you feel that you're doing it out of guilt, basically, right? Are you doing this workout because you really love it and you feel energized by it and you feel great afterwards? Well, if you couldn't do it that day, are you still going to be okay? Or are you going to feel guilty and you have to make up for it? Because that's very different things. I would go to a boot camp class, and I've talked to many women who have this similar experience of, okay, the regular instructor is not here. And this new, sub instructor, I feel like the class wasn't as hard as it usually is. So I'm going to go run a mile to make up for it. That's not a healthy mindset or place to be. Now, if it's, I love a boot camp class, and, it was cut short today, or we had a different instructor and it wasn't as good, and it is what it is, and okay, moving on, that's fine. But it's when we get so tied to, this is how this should go, and I have to hit this, or I am not good enough, or I did not push hard enough. I didn't earn something. I didn't earn to rest because I didn't do my run today. I didn't earn, a large dinner because I didn't complete my workout or wasn't able to push hard enough. When we're tying it to what we earn and deserve, that is a huge red flag.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there'll be a lot of reassessment around that as well, as to our deep reasons why. Like you said earlier, the diet culture is huge, and a lot of the places that we get our information with or from perpetuate that. Mm-hmm. Whether it's intentional or not, it's just a huge part of the sport, whether it's running or triathlon or endurance or something completely different like CrossFit. So it does really need to be examined as part of that transition to achieving optimal health. And, that won't mean stopping altogether for a lot of people. But I just remember conversations I've had with readjusting intensity and frequency of training, and how hard some people find to move into a more, easy kind of scenario where it's a little bit of jogging, maybe lots of walking and yoga. Like for me, that's what I love. I mean, I don't even really run these days at all, but so that's for me really easy to do because it's exercise that I enjoy. But at the same time, I very much appreciate how hard it is for many others to find the enjoyment in that when they'd much prefer to be running and competing and so on and so forth.
Oh, totally. And I'm with you now. I would never have believed that I would be saying, oh, I walk and do yoga and I run 1 to 2 times a week, a couple miles like that. That's like so far from where I was running 30 miles a week and doing boot camp. And I still love to run. I still love a boot camp. I do them very infrequently. I am primarily a little strength and yoga, and I walk the dog twice a day. And it brings me great joy now. It was breaking that habit and that routine, and really honestly being able to trust my body more. There was this fear, which every single person I get in a call with about this, there's this fear that if I back off, if I do less, I am just going to gain weight uncontrollably. And the fear is so much bigger than what actually happens for every single person. The fear of what could happen. I've had people that they're like, well, I've never in my life been overweight, but I'm afraid if I stop this, I'm going to be obese. I mean, they've said that. And it's this fear around, I have to keep my body in check. If I don't count calories, I will eat too much. If I don't, watch what the types of foods that I'm eating, I'm just going to, go crazy and eat every type of junk food. If I don't stick to the schedule, I'm just going to become someone who lays on the couch. And that isn't the case. We're just afraid that if we let go a little bit of that control we have, that we're just going to go off the deep end the other way. When the people that I see that get into the situation in the first place aren't the type of people who are going to do that. They're going to have to find that balance, but it's really hard to trust that our bodies can figure it out and know what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Great advice. I agree. And it is that trust in many situations when, deep down, it's the right change to start to make, but it's like walking blind through the forest, right? You need to have
Yeah.
some trust to start making those changes, and then you'll have that belief when you've got the
Yeah.
evidence for yourself, but often not before.
It is. And whenever I tell my story, when I talk to people about this, it's like, I can tell you this all day, but you have to be ready to try it. And like you said, you don't have to go cold turkey, right? If something in you is like, okay, I feel like this is too much. I feel like I can't picture myself going the rate that I'm going for the next 10 years, whether you want a baby or not, right? Look, it's just, I can't picture keeping up with this pace for that much longer. Something needs to change. Small changes, make really small changes. Sub one of your interval runs for a steady state run. Sub one of your runs for a walk. Do one of your strength sessions as a power yoga. Step it back very slightly and see how that feels. Get used to it, and then step it back a little more. And kind of outlining where you want to be. I mean, that is what I help my clients with, is like, okay, where are you now? Where your ideal life, let's picture that. What would that look like? And let's make little steps until we get there. It doesn't have to be next week we're doing this, to really show that you can trust your body. Once you get in that routine, then it doesn't feel so weird. The first week that I didn't stick to my regular, 30 miles a week, the first week or two, it felt like I was playing hooky. It felt like, well, this is weird. I'm just going for a walk. Does this even count? Like, I felt so weird about it. And then after, 2-3 weeks, okay, that's my normal routine. Okay, I can do that. I can only do 3 runs a week, and it feels enough, and it feels okay. But it's just being committed to making that change.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And did you have any significant dietary changes that you had to make?
Mine was mainly just eating more all around. More when I was hungry, instead of like, oh, I usually eat a snack at X time. I'm hungry now, I'm just going to eat now. Like those small rules. And then I was a lot of, the non-fat dairy, right? I was limiting the cheese I would have. I love yogurt. I would always get non-fat, and making that switch to whole fat, it was scary. I see the calorie count on there and I'm like, that's a lot when I was used to having less. What's this going to do? But committing to buying that. And that's when it really helps to know, really define who you are and what you want. Because when I'm in that grocery store, which is easy now, but when I was in that grocery store making that switch, I'm thinking I have a choice. It feels weird and I feel uncomfortable buying the whole fat, but I know that I need more fat on my body if I want to have a healthy baby. So this is a choice I'm making. And it was making those choices in the moment, and then it became more comfortable. It was, who am I making this choice? Am I going to stay, beholden to this fear of gaining fat and go back to my old ways? Or am I going to say, no, I'm over this and I want a different way?
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome advice. And so take us through the next part of your journey with when you and your husband decided you wanted to try for a baby, and where that took you next.
Yeah. So we were kind of figuring out it was HA, or like what was going on alongside going down fertility treatments. And so we started with like an IUI and we got to do one. Then the stuff I was on, the medication was not getting me to the point to even do another IUI. And you mentioned IVF. So at this point, I actually talked to another doctor. He had not mentioned HA. He did not give it a name. He said, you probably need to cut back on your running. You might need to gain some weight, but these were not very specific terms. And I'm the type of person, like, if you say I need to cut back on running, you need to tell me how much I can run. Like cutting, I need a specific number. I need more guidance on this. And I talked to this other doctor at an event, and she mentioned HA, and I looked it up. I was like, oh, this is a thing. People are going through this. And so that's when I really, not that I wasn't taking it seriously, but I had more information around it, around what was going on in my body. I got that book, No Period, Now What, by Nicola Rinaldi, which is amazing information. and really could learn what was happening with my hypothalamus, what was going on, what the energy deficit was. And that did make it a lot easier to not only put on the weight, but to make those dietary choices, to add more, peanut butter instead of getting that, like, oh God, the PB2, the stuff you'd mix in water that is not, like, don't do that, but to get real peanut butter and choices like that, and to cut back on the running. So we got to the point where we did IVF. We did one transfer and it ended in a chemical pregnancy, which is very, very early miscarriage for those that haven't been through this process. And then the next one, our last embryo, worked, and we have a son who will be 3 next week. And the thing is, I kept those changes. I was breastfeeding. I knew how important it was to keep my calories up for that, to not go too intense. I wanted that time with him. And when he was about 1.5 years, my period came back, and it's been regular ever since. It's been, going on 2 years now. And it was when I was not so hung up on, I stopped counting calories. I ate when I was hungry. All these things that seemed impossible before, but I'd really put in the groundwork of that foundation as we were going through IVF, and just carried that into motherhood, and just showed my body I was trusting it. I would run some, but it wasn't on a schedule. It got really hot in the summer. I was like, I don't like the feeling of this. So I didn't run for 6 weeks because it was humid. Never would have done that before. I would have pushed through it. So I had this really different mentality and mindset around it.
Yeah, awesome. And I know this is what you coach people on. So I have a couple of questions that I'm sure you use throughout your coaching in that sort of fertility and IVF space to, I guess, keep the joy in the journey, because there can be so many challenges. I'm curious to know about that fixation on the outcome, because obviously there's a lot of steps that you go through, and it could be really easy to be, am I pregnant, and really focused on that, which is really outcome derived. But what advice do you give people around that?
Yeah, God. And it's so crazy. The experience through IVF and learning to manage those thoughts around outcome and around not getting sucked into this black hole of waiting, I've applied to my business. Instead of having that outcome of this is how many clients I want, it's, do I enjoy who I'm working with now? Do I enjoy the way I work with people, and being able to take that focus off? And I really learned that through IVF. I noticed pretty early on, as we were, maybe a couple IUIs in, it was that fixation. It was, when is the next cycle start? Where are we in this cycle? And I was very cognizant of, oh, this is quickly becoming this, like I said, black hole of waiting. This is becoming the fixation. And I have so much other stuff going on in my life. So this is the only thing that is upsetting. I have great friends. We were living in Chicago at the time. We were going to concerts. I was married. We owned our home. We had a dog. We had this great network of friends that we did so much fun things with. And I was like, I don't want to ignore all of this. I have so much going on that I don't want this time in my life, however long this is, who knew at that time, however long this is as we wait to become parents, I don't want to look back on this and think, oh yeah, that was a very hard time and that's all I can think of. I want to look back on this time and think of, what were we doing? What else was going on? This was just a fraction of it, not the whole piece.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think that can be a really common scenario because it is so consuming. There's so much involved, it can be all consuming. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I just love that there's support out there, like with what you do for women that are going through the same or a similar journey to yours. Is there anything else that you found really helpful, like, were you still working on any goals whilst still remaining really kind to yourself during that time?
Yeah, and it really is also allowing yourself to obviously be upset. Be upset if that month it doesn't work out. To be upset with it, but to sit with it for a day and then move on. And what am I going to do next? And what are the other goals? So it was really, friends were, it's so different in COVID times, right? But planning like rooftop yoga at my place, and my friend would come and teach a bunch of our friends, and really, throwing a dinner party. It was throwing myself into other areas. It was learning. I learned a headstand in that time. Now I'm working on a handstand. Taught myself to do a headstand. It was, okay, yoga was not a big part of my practice. Now that it is, like, let's get adventurous with that. And what types of yoga do I like? It's like rediscovering who you are in other areas. What else am I interested in? I got into cross stitch. So I was doing all these things I didn't have the time and the mental space for. That was much more, a better use of my creativity. It was a totally different way to look at how I spend my time. And also this is such a vague term, but protecting my energy. I was invited to a couple Facebook groups by a friend who also had gone through IVF. She found them very helpful. It was, a couple local groups for Illinois for women going through IVF. And I soon noticed that when I logged onto Facebook and got these notifications from these groups, I got more anxious because it was people talking about the failures that they had, something else that was wrong. And it was like, oh my God, this is this whole world. I'm not ready to read all about that. So I left the groups immediately. It's like, this is not helpful for me. What I need is more hope and more positivity. So I found podcasts that were more hopeful around fertility, about success journeys. I started filling my ears and what I was reading with stories of success, with people doing interesting things. So it wasn't this, oh my God, this is so hard. I can't sit with how hard this is. I want this to be, what am I learning from this? And who is being successful in this?
Yeah, again, incredible advice, because I don't think people mean it, but when you're pregnant or even trying to get pregnant, some of the stories that you hear are really inappropriate, and they're often coming from someone who's either never been pregnant or perhaps has forgotten it was decades ago, because it just blows my mind, the things that people feel appropriate to share. But at the end of the day, you're in control over that, right?
That's the thing. You can't control, God, with anything in life, right? You can't control what people say to you, what people put out there to read. But if you are confident in yourself and where you are in your journey, then you're not really affected by it. You're not thrown. You might read and be like, oh, that's a bummer. Like, I wish I didn't see that. You're going to move on with your day. It's not going to drag you down into this worry spiral, into this whole fretting about, are you doing the right thing? Will this ever work? And learning that then has, like I said, again, I've been able to apply that to so many different areas. When COVID first hit, March of last year for us, it was this anxiety of uncertainty and not knowing when or how. And it was like, oh, this is very familiar to me. This is how I'm coping with this. Is how I coped with the unknowing of infertility, of when will this be over and how am I going to deal with this and how long will this be? I was able to apply the same things then. Okay, I'm going to focus on getting through this month. Okay, what would be a fun thing how can I connect with my friends? Let's plan a Zoom party. All these other things, instead of focusing on when is this going to be over? Because that is no way to live. With career goals. You can't focus on when am I going to hit this income level? When will I get this many clients? When will this be my title? It is, what do I love about what I'm doing right now? How can I enjoy the hell out of that and bring me to the next level?
Yeah, I think that's great perspective for lots of areas of our life, because for almost all of us, life is a little unpredictable even now. In 2021, there's still a lot of unknowns, even if it is just things like international travel. And I don't mean to say just, that's significant for a lot of people with family away, but obviously a bit different to perhaps when it first started. But I live in Australia, and that's, again, very different to where you are. So there's just so many areas of our life where we need that perspective. And I think it is about refocusing, because, it's again, trying not to be too focused on those outcomes and being disappointed when things maybe don't happen as you expected, or things are changing around you where you feel like you have less control. Yeah, having that different perspective, and especially when you've come from endurance training, filling your time with something else that is really supporting your goals, rather than it being just, I guess, feeling that gap, that big hole that, needs to be replaced from something that you spent so much time doing.
It is. And whenever I'm helping people, okay, kind of get the offset, kind of get your mind off this one thing that you want to do, this one thing you wish you could do, right? I wish I could be running. I wish I could push myself, I always say we're not trying to find exactly a replacement, right? When I say try yoga, yoga is not going to feel like running. I'm not under the impression that you're going to do a yoga session and think, wow, that was exactly how I feel when I get back from a long run. No, you're trying to make this wider lens of what else is available in my life. What else can I do at this time? So it's not really, a replacement. It's just like giving yourself more options. And like I said, I fell into that pattern with work with, anytime that, my son is in school, anytime, on the weekends when he's napping, I need to be working. I should be working. And very soon I was like, oh, I'm doing it with work now. Like I am doing it with, this is how I have to spend my time. And, I started saying, no, I'm going to take some, time for myself. And we have to force ourselves to do it because it feels unnatural. We feel guilty for doing it. But it was, no, I'm going to sit on the couch and finish this book. Like that's also important to me. Now I have a book goal for the year of how many books I want to read. I would have never set that goal before or taken it seriously. But now I see that as a goal. It is, no, I've got to head up to bed now because I want 15 minutes to read. Like I want to get through this book. I want these other things that are not just a running goal. That's not just a career goal. I have these self-care goals.
Yeah, beautiful. Because you do find the time. I think perhaps it's good to have goals that are soft because that gives you a new focus, especially if that suits your personality. But you're more likely to commit to them as well, rather than it be like, oh, yeah, I want to be a reader. And that's it.
Right.
A few days later, you've forgotten about it and you're scrolling Instagram or what have you. I do love that advice because we can be as equally focused on that whilst it's self-care and it's helping our, our health or our healing journey.
Oh, totally. And it really, you have to make those goals at first. So like you said, it's what's going to go on the back burner. When it's just you and it's this feel good kind of thing, it's almost like, oh, well, I didn't, do XYZ. I don't deserve to do that. I didn't earn the time to do it. I slept in today. I don't earn to take a nap. If you're tired, take a nap. You don't have to earn it. It's your life. No one is keeping track of what you do with your time. So we just got to stop being so hard on ourselves, stop seeing it as wasted time. What you're choosing to do with your time, if it's what you want and what feels good, it's not a waste of time. Even if it's what you want is to sit and watch a show on Netflix because that is what you want more than anything, that's not a waste of time because you chose to spend your time doing that. If that doesn't make you feel good, then you're going to choose something else. But it's really looking at what do you want to do with your time because my God, we are just confronted with what everyone else is doing with their time. I mean, we don't even know if that's true, but it's so easy to fall into that trap of, well, this is how so-and-so spends their downtime. This is what so-and-so does during their son's nap. Well, if that's what you want to do, great. But if not, well, what do you want to do with your time? What's important to you?
Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. So I'd love to hear more about what you offer at Simply Well Coaching and, more about certainly how you can help anyone tuning in that really would like some more support with their journey.
Oh, yes, of course. So I am only doing one-on-one coaching right now because it is so customized. Everyone is really in a different phase. I've got people with, weight loss goals, with fertility goals, all across the board. So it's not just this one avenue. And it's so personalized. I feel like I meet them where they are. We kind of set these small goals to get you to your bigger goal. We keep that big goal in picture. I either do a 90-minute session, which is called a Cycle Up Breakthrough, kind of bust through some layers, or 2 options of 12 weeks. It's either every week or every other week, but you have unlimited Voxer in between for those days that you are spiraling with worry. You can leave me a voice message and I will get right back to you. Another great option is I have a Facebook group called Aligned Action Collective, and it is for women. If you relate to anything I've said today, this is the spot for you. It is very uplifting, supportive, empowering to get you to your goals without falling victim to your goals. But I do offer a free 30-minute consult just to kind of bust through anything that you're struggling with now. And I have to say it because I get the question all the time. No, you're not committing to any coaching, and you're not wasting my time. I would not offer it if I couldn't do it. Just to allow anyone who needs it to have those 30 minutes with a coach to bust through whatever they're struggling with now and kind of leave with a little bit of an action plan.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. So we'll pop all the links to those that information in the show notes. But before we wrap up today, I just wanted to give you the space to add anything else that you'd like to the conversation, and also tell us where to find you via your online home.
Oh, yeah. One thing, and it sounds so fluffy, but one of the biggest things that has helped me lately, especially through COVID, I mean, we're still in it, but especially at the beginning, and I'm going to say gratitudes, and how I specifically have begun this practice is every night before I go to bed, I run through what I call a highlight reel, and just think of the best parts of my day. It could be I had some good coffee, the sun was shining, and I got a walk with the dog. I had a great session with a client. I run through only the highlights, because too often I found we collectively, and I was laying in bed thinking of what I had to do the next day or what I didn't get done. And instead changing it up to think of how amazing my day was has made such a difference. And now throughout my day, I'm noticing them as they're happening. Oh, I'm really enjoying this right now. Well, otherwise I was just blowing right past it. So that is my one piece of advice. If you take anything away from this talk, try that out for a week and see how it changes your mindset and your outlook. With that said, you can find me on Instagram. Come say hi if you're listening to this episode. I'd love to meet you. I am at Simply Well Coaching, and then my website is simplywellcoaching.com, and you can find me in my Facebook group. It is, again, Aligned Action Collective, and I do free coaching there every week. I do something I call an F Yeah Friday, where I give a recommendation and all the other women in the group pile on and give something that they recommend that they are into that week. So it's a great resource.
Yeah, awesome. Again, those links will be in the show notes. So thank you so much for being open up enough to share your journey, but to also give us some amazing advice for those that are going through similar journeys, and certainly how to apply those learnings to other areas of our life. It was so great to connect with you.
Yes, well, thank you so much. Thanks for your time. It was great chatting.
If you are looking for personalized support to find your voice and achieve your dream career as a health practitioner, I currently have limited spaces available in my one-on-one mentoring program. To find out more and book a complimentary exploration call, please visit stephflow.com/mentoring. Health, happiness, and humankind is not intended to be medical advice. So as always, please consult your practitioner before making any changes to your health.